TDA Rule 45, Multiple Chip Betting. I'll read the official rule once, then explain how it's applied in poker tournaments. If facing a bet, unless raise or all-in is declared first, a multi-chip bet, including a bet of your last chips, is a call if every chip is needed to make the call, i.e., removal of just one of the smallest chips leaves less than the call amount. Example 1. Player A opens for 400. B raises to 1100 total, a 700 raise. C puts out one 500 and 1000 chip silently. This is a call because removing the 500 chip leaves less than the 1100 call amount. Example 2. No limit hold'em, 25-50 blinds. Post flop, A opens for 1050 and B puts out his last chips for two 1000s. B calls unless raise or all in was first declared. If every chip is not needed to make the call, i.e., removing just one of the smallest chips leaves the call amount or more, if one player has chips remaining, the 50% standard in Rule 43 governs the bet. A bet if a player's last chip is an all-in whether reaching the 50% threshold or not. This rule explains how silent multi-chip actions are interpreted when a player is facing a bet. The key factor is whether every chip pushed forward is required to complete the call. If every chip is needed to equal the call amount, the action is treated as a call unless the player clearly declared raise or all-in first. The chips are simply completing the call. If at least one chip could be removed and the remaining chips could still equal or exceed the call amount, then the action may be evaluated under the 50% raise standard described in Rule 43. Another important distinction is whether the player has chips remaining. If the player still has chips behind, the 50% rule determines whether the action becomes a raise. However, if the player pushes out their final chips, the wager is treated as an all-in bet even if the amount does not reach the 50% threshold. A common misunderstanding is that pushing out multiple chips automatically creates a raise. Under TDA Rule 45, that's not necessarily true. The determination depends on whether every chip is required to make the call and whether the player has additional chips remaining. Under TDA Rule 45, silent multiple chip betting is interpreted based on whether all chips are required to complete the call and whether the 50% raise threshold applies.